Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we have a guy who's born in England, I assume.
Yep.
Lives overseas now, but he's invested in Nigeria. We're going to find out how, why, and what his experience is like. So nice to have you here today, Steve.
Pleasure.
So, why Nigeria? What took you there?
So I was working out there for a couple of years when I was about 26, 27. So I was living in Lagos. I had a flat there in quite an interesting bit of Lagos. So I worked out there, worked out in Nairobi for a bit, and Cape Town as well for a little while.
Okay. What was your role?
I was selling beer. I won't say which one, but I was working for a brewery out there.
Okay. And how did you find their sales experience different from when you were in England?
Yeah, I mean, Nigeria's great fun, I would say. It's pretty hardcore. I think, I find most Nigerians that I've met, albeit it's probably a small number in the grand scheme, great fun, brilliant negotiators, will always try and take whatever they can, but then have a laugh with it. So, it was good fun, but it's hard work out there. Pretty underdeveloped back in those days, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
How long ago was this?
10, 15 years ago, I reckon.
What's the business environment like? Is it quite like, is there a strong sort of rule of law under
So this is quite funny actually, because everyone talks about corrupt Nigeria. I was there when all the British MP scandal came out with the lads who were paying for their moats out of expenses and things. So all the Nigerian lads I used to work with had a great time talking about how corrupt Nigeria was, but how all the British MPs were doing exactly the same thing and getting away with it. And to be fair, I think they're right. So it makes you realise actually that you have an opinion in places like that, but here's just as bad, in my opinion.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that. I always talk about it as direct corruption and indirect corruption.
Yeah.
The British government puts a spin on it with a piece of paper saying it's law, it's okay, where the Nigerians forget to produce a piece of paper.
But none of those MPs who were cheating their expenses got sacked. Not a single one. I mean, if you pay for a moat on expenses and work for a private company, you're getting sacked immediately. So I think it's worse because that's entitlement.
Not to make this about that scandal, but wasn't one of the problems, to your point, that actually what they were doing wasn't... I don't think what they were doing was illegal, was it? It was just a rule.
Some were illegal,
Yeah.
where like I think Tony Blair gave back a load of money.
Right.
It was like, how can you get caught robbing the bank? Oh, I'm putting the money back now.
Yeah.
I don't want to get...
There's also spirit of the law and rule of the law, especially in a position of power, I think. I remember going out to... went to Abuja and then was going out into the kind of rural area beyond Abuja and went to a little local airport, and there was something like 25 private jets parked there, and the local religious leader, priest or whatever, had a house that was a replica but a bigger version of the White House in the US.
Okay.
That's where he lived, and that was always pretty amazing.
So you said you worked in Nigeria,
And South Africa.
Kenya, South Africa, Uganda.
Were there big differences in each country in terms of how business operates?
A little bit. So I remember in South Africa there was a guy who apparently had been on the rake for like a decade. No one had ever known, no one would have ever found out. He had a whole little ruse, and then one day he drove into work in a yellow Hummer, and that's how he got caught. Because he was in like a low-level job and he just drove into work in a yellow Hummer. And as soon as that happened, then obviously they did a bit of an investigation. Yeah, it's normally stupid people that get caught, is what I find.
The interesting thing is, regardless of corruption, the authorities still found it unacceptable because they did an investigation. They didn't look at it as, oh, well, he's probably corrupt, but that's life.
That's true. I mean, as soon as it was found out, they followed up on it, yeah. I remember sitting in a work meeting in London, and we had all like people from different countries all around the world coming in. There was a whole discussion about what was acceptable and what wasn't, and where the line was in terms of corruption within the business, and all these examples of people who've been offered briefcases of cash and stuff. And I remember the guy at the front going, look, when you go out for dinner, you need to treat it as if it's your own money. Don't go and spend a ton of cash. He's like, who here would have lobster for dinner every day? This one lady put her hand up, and he's like, I assume you're joking, like no one has lobster every day. And she's like, no, I live in the Seychelles. We just catch lobster off the back of our house. We've got a little pier, and I have lobster every day for dinner. And that like destroyed the whole compliance discussion for the whole day.
Were the organisations you're doing business with, were they sort of multinationals, or was it a lot of like local businesses and?
A mix, but then I worked in Vietnam as well, and I remember there the tax authorities came in and they stayed there for 2 weeks doing a full tax audit, and then they, at the end of 2 weeks, they said, right, we haven't found anything wrong here. You know, you're doing everything within the law, like, great. And then they said, so we're going to stay here until we find something that you've done wrong, or you give us $50,000.
Yes, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. I heard that before.
So Vietnam's the worst part. I mean,
no, but I've heard the same thing for Kenya as well.
Oh, really?
I used to live in Kenya,
yeah.
where people just said, listen, why make me do work? Just give me some money.
Give me
and
cash,
and I'll go.
A place
Very
I
simple.
worked would never ever do that, which I quite respected it for. They'd rather go through the motions than do that.
But you think about it as a business owner, in some cases, you'll be like, let's just take them.
But they can shut you down. I mean, they don't need a reason to shut you down anywhere. That's the...
But if you're the business owner and you know things have gone adrift, you can stay afloat forever.
Yeah.
As long as you're just paying off whoever
you
needs
worked
be.
in Egypt. You must have had some...
Yeah, we had to. This is a long time ago. It's like over 20 years ago.
You are quite old.
I was very young at the time.
He's younger than me.
I was 20, and we had it was all fairly normal. The biggest thing that you noticed was just the wealthy divide.
Yeah.
And I was able to accept that. Some people really struggled with like privilege that you have as a white English young student, basically turning up.
Strange how, as a white
And
young English student, you were comfortable with the privilege levels.
You're immediately Mohandas, which is like engineer, which is quite a big
Title.
and that you haven't earned. And people will ask you, "Oh, how much do you earn then?" And you which wasn't much by English standards, but you couldn't say ever how much you earned because it would just cause massive problems. Really experienced foreman
year's
there,
wages in a month
probably
or
earning,
something. And they're probably more
way
skilled
more
than you as well.
So there was that to deal with. I made the mistake of giving. We had like some child labour on site, and I felt sorry for one of them. Made the mistake of giving him like some change once because I just felt sorry for him, and then had like half the kids on the site asking me for money.
How
so
do you
that taught
cope
me a
with having
lesson.
child labour on site? When you say child labour, how old
What
are
was
you?
what was your
15
role
or
then?
So we were building like a big.
You're building pyramids out there?
No, film studios.
Okay.
And what happens is they sort of bust the farmers in from southern Egypt. So they come with their kids, and then the kids are sort of young teenagers, and they've obviously faked their.
So they're not like 6 years old.
they're learning their father's trade.
They're
Then,
learning their fathers. They're young. They're sort of young teenagers, and it's not child labour, like very young. But they seemed young to me, and I was 20.
Yeah.
So, but we had one thing which was like we were aware of corruption at all levels. So we had a kitchen that we were fitting with all Italian kitchen equipment, and it was in a tax reduction zone, like to stimulate development. And so all of our kitchen equipment went into this secure compound on site in locked and tagged containers. And then I came in on Friday, which was our day off, to oversee opening of the containers.
Just got to snap the seals.
Snapping the seals, check everything. And the customs guys turned up, who are these sort of old, portly Egyptian customs officials. And then at one point during the day, one of my colleagues just told me to just take a walk because things were going a bit slow. Just take a walk, go and get some sandwiches or something, and come back.
And everything will be sorted.
And then suddenly everything was all sorted out, and all the papers were signed, everything was passed off, and all the containers were being unloaded. But yeah, there was some brown envelopes flying around there.
I mentioned earlier I used to work on the ships. When you're going through the Suez Canal, it's standard that you give gifts to all of the.
It's a cultural way of doing business.
As you say, it's always a certain amount of crates. They call it pop, like crates of Coca-Cola, whatever. Sometimes they get like 8 trays. You know, the 24 things. and then you get whatever else and some alcohol and cigarettes. You try not to give money, but that's if you want to get through with whether you're MSc, Maersk, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the
Just part
standard.
of it.
It's standard.
So you were in the Navy?
It's part of the
I
economy.
was in the Marines, but then when I was working on the ships, it's private. It's like kind of
Oh, was it?
mercenary kind of thing.
okay.
Yeah.
But you were on the ships guarding for piracy, basically.
Yeah. In that respect.
Yeah.
Is
What-
this still private? Sorry.
Go on.
No.
Right, I know your curiosity is delving in now.
Yeah.
What would be your advice from both of you, Steve and Bob, to younger people who are going to go out and work in Africa based on your experience?
Oh, definitely do. I mean, it was the best.
Yeah.
It was the best. I mean, Sam was out there for. Sorry, Steve was out there. For, Steve was out there for a lot longer than me. I was very young when I did it, and it was the best thing I could possibly have done. So I had my 21st birthday out there. I got like a lot more freedom, and definitely kind of opened my eyes to like you're able to sort of look back at home and see in a completely new
Yeah,
light.
I'd agree with that.
So you got used to living in. Well, it's pretty nice when it's sunny every day for a year because you're in a good mood every single day. I got my own car, a flat, got to immerse myself in a different culture. Every single thing is interesting. Even going to the shop is interesting because you have to learn a different language.
Did you learn the languages?
Yeah, I learned a fair bit of Arabic, enough to like just get by. And then your holidays, you're given the option to come home, which I never did. And, just spend the money either going on holiday, like where we were, so go diving, or spend the plane ticket on a trip to Thailand or something like that. Something that I would never have been able to have done at that age. So yeah, I thought it was just absolutely. I didn't want to come home. So, brilliant experience.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I did a lot of that. When I was on the ships, there was a downtime because there wasn't it's all contract based.
Yeah. Were you like month on, month off? Or?
No, sometimes the longest I've done is 6.5 months on, and the shortest is like a week. So it just varies. If vessels come by, your name's up, you're available. That's why 1 year I took 35 long haul flights in 1 year, and I just said, all right, that's it. I don't need to see a plane for a while.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But great, interesting experience, and yeah, I see what you're saying about getting up and travelling. I have to ask you, did at any time at all you guys feel nervous, uncomfortable? Because a lot of people always ask me, yeah, but is it safe? Is it?
Definitely.
Really? I was out there 4 years, and I was like all over the place, not just in.
You're in more technically dangerous.
Yeah, I
places
mean,
than
we
me.
were in places where you were locked in compounds at night. I had, when I used to leave Lagos Airport, there'd be an armoured car in front and behind with 4 or 5 guys with machine guns. When I went out and about, I'd have 2 bodyguards, one with a machine gun, one with a pistol, who was ex-special services. Never felt unsafe once.
That's because you were with 2 bodyguards.
Was never in a
So-
situation.
Maybe though, like,
no,
I
I
mean,
was
for me, the
never in a situation where you thought I shouldn't be here.
The
Because
most nervous I felt was like a sort of driving through the Sinai Desert, and then you come to like the checkpoints,
yeah,
and you're completely. It's just
You and them.
and a mate. You may or may not have had a couple of beers in the car on the way through the.
Oh yeah,
desert.
Egypt. But you're putting yourself. You're like those tourists, those English tourists who go to Thailand and get caught with opium. Yeah, that's what you're putting yourself. You know their
That's a
rules.
good
Yeah,
description
no,
of you,
exactly.
actually.
So
You know the
actually,
rules,
I wasn't like that.
the
you
worst
see.
thing, the most worrying thing was
Yourself,
our own
being yourself.
behaviour, because we had so much freedom.
Yeah, I think
You
that's
were
one
young
thing.
though, weren't
But
you?
that's
young
one
and we were
thing you've
quite
got to watch. I think
sort
you see how some people act like idiots because you have so much freedom. You can kind of do what you want, and you got cash. But I think you have to keep your kind of moral compass
But
pretty,
then,
pretty
you
honest.
say that, but then like I had friends coming over and visit me towards the end of the year, and they'd come straight over from England and join me, and they were having a great laugh. And then one of them said, "Oh, can I drive the car for a bit, like through the desert, like on the road?" And he was going on and on about it, and I said, "Yeah, okay then, but you just got to like take it easy." And it made me realise I let him drive for about 10 minutes. He nearly killed us because like a truck was coming around the corner, and I knew this truck was going to go onto the other side of the road because that's what they do. But he just assumed he would just be driving
Like
like
the West.
in England. And so you definitely we definitely
You learn to acclimatise, definitely. I mean, I used to get cars on the weekend, just drive all over the place into middle of nowhere. Like, I drove through Malawi on my own and stuff like that. But you realise that like 99% of people around the world will help you if you need help. Even more so, I think, in Africa than in London or in...
Oh, definitely.
I think people are just... Yeah,
One thing I noticed when I was, sorry to cut you there, one thing I noticed about crime when I was in Kenya, I never saw a fist fight with men. I didn't see any violence with men. I saw prostitutes fighting, which is understandable.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but in the years I was there, 10 years overall, coming and going, never saw any.
That's very true, actually. Saw a lot of aggro, but never saw I never saw a big fight.
I was regularly quite irresponsible in taxis. So we'd get a taxi from the rugby
That's
club.
great that you're saying that while sat in a taxi. I'm sure that's filling everyone with confidence.
We'd get a taxi from the rugby club down to the pub, and you'd come onto a road called the Corniche where no one can stop. So it's like a dual carriageway, both directions going down the Nile. And I'd wait until we were on the Corniche, and
You were a proper expat,
I was full of beer.
Proper expat.
Wind down the window and then climb onto the roof and then surf the taxi down the
I think
What did the tax? Was this the times? This was the times Mubarak was
This
in power.
was pre-Obama.
I think
that would be Mubarak.
Oh, it was
Mubarak,
Mubarak. Mubarak. Yeah, Mubarak was in power.
He's a serious dude, though.
Yeah, no, it's such a stupid thing to do.
I think you're exactly the kind of person that Africa doesn't want coming to Africa.
And then I sort of climbed back into the taxi and then came home. And then the week after we got home, 9/11 happened. And I think in hindsight, I realised how silly I'd been behaving in quite a country with a very serious undercurrent going on, because all the roads that we lived on were immediately locked down because there was like diplomats lived on those roads, and I think I sort of look back in hindsight, I was quite lucky I got away with everything that I got away with when I was out there.
But it's good memories.
Very good memories, and
Absolutely.
some very good friends as well. That was the other thing about doing something like that. You make some solid friends, because both Egyptian and expats. Because you're all stuck out there together. It's that
I
like
definitely
village,
think so. Everyone makes an effort.
village lifestyle.
Based on your experience, I know it's a while ago now, what country, if any country, would you invest in if you had the money? Assuming you have, I don't know if you have.
Because that depends. I think you've got countries where you can see massive returns, like Nigeria would be the obvious example. Nigeria is probably going to see more growth than just about anywhere in the world. And then you've got countries like Rwanda where you've got a real strong set of systems around it, so you've probably got less risk in terms of what can happen. Because it depends what you're investing in, but it's very easy to invest in something that can disappear overnight. You've got to be willing to take the risk, I think. But I would probably go East Africa before West Africa, although Nigeria, Ghana, I mean, now Ghana's got gas and oil. I think there's so much growth to be had there. But I think the main thing is that you've just got to be willing. It's slightly higher risk than it would be elsewhere.
Presumably, it also depends what you're investing in.
Yeah, exactly. If you're investing in land, or are you investing in the stock market, etc., etc. But I think Nigeria would be.
Well, Nigeria
so
is
much
the
opportunity
most
there.
populous country. So if you're investing in consumer goods, presumably that's
And
the biggest market.
it's got a very consumer-driven.
Yeah, but even though
mentality.
Nigeria's got the biggest population, Kiswahili is the biggest spoken language, African indigenous language. So that covers down to Mozambique, Tanzania,
Yeah, because
Kenya,
East
Uganda,
Africa operates as a single economic
Yeah.
zone.
Is there free
like
trade zone then?
they have,
East
but they
Africa
have their
works well.
issues. They've had their issues, which has been entertaining.
But
to
then you've
watch
got South
about.
Africa, because Johannesburg is 10% of the GDP of Africa. So, but then South Africa, I mean, look at what the Gupta brothers have done to that place. So I think I would go East Africa probably. Yeah.
I wouldn't really know.
But again, it's kind of like, to your point, it's very interesting, isn't it? Are you looking for more somewhere to park your money with stable returns, where South Africa's got quite a mature setup in that regard?
In the current environment, with all the chaos that's going on in the West, I think Africa looks more attractive.
Would you invest in natural resources, services? What would you invest in?
Water.
Well, what we were just talking
Yeah,
about
that's
was the
interesting.
North African solar parks.
In Morocco.
Yeah, that would be
Morocco,
massive.
That's feeding us now, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, we're
And
running those cables all the way.
I think there's a lot of
that
that.
will help
that
a
makes
lot
sense. Yeah.
of opportunities.
And also natural resources. I mean, like, look at all the precious metals in Zim, in
DRC.
I mean,
You've got an
DRC
ESG
should be
there,
one of the
haven't you?
wealthiest places on the planet, technically.
It should be the wealthiest.
But it
Cobalt.
isn't. Yeah.
But you've obviously got massive ESG issues with all of that with like mining.
Yeah, I
and
think
stuff.
for all precious metals, you've got ESG issues.
That's what I mean. Like you've got to then think about your.
I mean, those diamonds you've got in your Prince Albert didn't come from nowhere, Dave.
So what's ESG? I missed that.
What's ESG? Come on, you should know this.
Environmental, social, and governance. It's basically how sustainable and ethical your investments are. So,
So
okay.
now lots of companies will get loans that are linked to their ESG targets. So if you do more ESG, you get a lower interest rate.
Okay.
You can argue that not investing isn't helpful. as
No,
well.
no.
So,
I think the key is that you invest in companies that are based and owned in Africa rather than Western companies investing in Africa, because otherwise all the money is just landing in
Yeah.
Glencore's pockets, in Ivan's pockets in
Yeah.
Switzerland.
So-
Yeah, and investing locally is key.
It's funny you spoke about that because I looked up the 10 biggest mining companies in
Yeah.
Africa.
Glencore.
They're all owned by
Yeah, it
foreign
will be.
parties and things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, it's been very informative, very interesting hearing your points of view. I really, really appreciate it, and thank you for your time,
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
and I wish you well.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Gents, I hope you liked that. Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you liked that episode. Very informative, as I said to them. There's a lot to learn, a lot to consider. You probably want to listen to this episode more than once because I know I will. Have a nice day.